lice. They were drinking our blood and bringing us disease. And we got nothing to eat. We were so hungry. We used to come back from work, 12-hour shifts, construction work. When we came back home, we got home. This is a home. We got a bowl of soup and one slice of bread. And the soup, no meat, no fat. It was just vegetable soup. If a piece of potato floated in your soup, that was a good day to remember. They filmed me, and I jumped.
How was it?
That was fantastic. I'll tell you, jumping out from the airplane the first time, that's a strange, a scary moment. For 1 second, that was really, and the air is cold, and it hits you. Each one of us has in his chest two wolves, the wolf of love and friendship, and the wolf of hatred and bitterness. And the two wolves are fighting with each other all the time. So the grandson says, which wolf will win? The one we feed, he said, the one we feed.
Well, welcome to the podcast today, and I am excited about our guest. Elly Gotz is a graduate electronics engineer, a pilot, a businessman, and author of Flights of Spirit. He was born in Kaunas, Lithuania, spent his teenage years in a Nazi ghetto there, and later in a concentration camp at Dachau, Germany, where he was liberated in 1945 by the American Army. After the war, he lived in Germany, Norway, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. Elly came with his family to Canada in 1964, and he now lives in Toronto. He's going to talk to us about his experiences during the war and after liberation from the concentration camps, his search for education, and his later life as well. In December 2025, Elly was honored with the Order of Canada. This is a special treat that we have for us today. It's going to be a little different than most of our podcasts. So I'm just going to let Elly present for about the next hour, and then we're going to have an opportunity to ask him some questions. So join me in welcoming Elly. Elly, it's great to have you on the podcast today, and please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you very much. Hello, my new friends. I'm going to talk to you today about the Holocaust, the time in Europe when 6 million Jews were killed, murdered, because they were Jews. And I was there. I was born to a Jewish family in Kaunas, Lithuania, a small country in Europe, just near Poland and Ukraine. And I had a normal life for the early years. But in 1941, when the war started, when Germany attacked the Soviet Union, they occupied our country, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. They already had the whole of Europe occupied at the time. And now came our turn. And immediately there was an attack on the Jews. It started, they put us in a ghetto. 30,000 Jews were jammed into a ghetto, an old part of town, surrounded with barbed wire. We had to work, slave labor, no payment. And then they started to kill us. In one day, they killed 10,000 people, and then there were many other killings. After 3 years in the ghetto, my family was still alive. My parents and I, my 3 uncles, my aunt, we were still alive through miracles, through accident of fate. And now, after 3 years, the Russian army is winning the war. They are coming, and we can hear them fighting, because the front was right next to our city. What will happen to us? How can we survive that switchover? In the ghetto, we were sitting, we were wondering, and the Nazis announced, when I say Nazi, I mean the National Socialist Party of Germany, Hitler's party. They announced, we are liquidating the ghetto, and we are putting you guys somewhere else to work. We did not believe them. To us, liquidation of the ghetto meant liquidating us. they were going to take us up the hill outside the ghetto to the Ninth Fort. The Ninth Fort was a military compound, a very large one. And there they were going to kill us like they killed the others, the 10,000 people in one day. So our family decided, we had a meeting, we are not going where they want to take us. We are going to hide, and if they find us, we will commit suicide. We don't want to be killed up on the hill. So we went looking for a hiding place. We lived in a large 2-story wooden house, an old-fashioned house, and we had one small room there, my parents and I. We went into the basement, and we found in the basement a row of doors, storage rooms in the cement, in the foundation. So we opened the first door, and we saw there were junk furniture and spider webs and mess. So we took the junk furniture in another room opposite, and we cleaned up. We brought 2 weeks of food and water to last us about 2 weeks. And then we saw a cupboard standing in the passage, a large cupboard. So we dragged it in front of our door, so it shouldn't be obvious there was a door there. And we crawled through the cupboard into the room. My 3 uncles, my aunt, my parents, and I. As soon as we got inside, everybody turned to my mother. Sonia, are you ready? Ready to commit suicide. My mother was a nurse. She worked in the hospital in the ghetto, in the surgery department. In fact, she was a head nurse. So we expected her to know how to commit suicide. And my mother said, I'm ready. She laid out on a tray, very clean, she laid out a number of syringes filled with a drug, a brown drug, I remember. And she explained, this drug, we give it to older people when their heart is beating too slow to speed it up. But I'm going to give everyone a large dose of this drug. It will make the heart race and stop, create a heart attack. Are you sure it will work? I'm sure. I confirmed with the surgeon. My mother is preparing. I'm 16-year-old. I'm sitting there watching her. I've seen her do it before. She's taking bits of cotton wool and putting them on each syringe, and she's got a bottle of alcohol on the side. I'm thinking, Mother, I said, this is the last injection. We are not afraid of dying of an infection. We are going to die of a heart attack. Forget about the cotton wool and the alcohol. You won't have time. Everybody laughed except my mother. She said, I've been doing it like that all my life. But she took away the cotton wool and the alcohol. And I'm thinking again, what's it like to die of a heart attack? Doesn't the brain go on a bit while longer than when the heart stops? I didn't know, but I imagine it must be painful if the brain feels pain. So I decided I don't want to see my family die. Who knows, they might lie on the floor screaming in pain. I don't know what will happen here. I'm going first. So I slide over on the bench and I sit in front of my mother. And she doesn't say anything, so I'm happy. I was wondering a bit that she worried that she might have difficulty giving me the injection, her only child. But I decided she's a strong woman. She will not leave me behind. We are sitting 3 days and nights like that, nothing, nobody comes. But on the 4th morning, 2 soldiers are coming down the stairs. We can hear them. They come down, they walk past our cupboard, they go to the end of the passage, and they start opening doors. So my mother picks up the syringe, and I've got my arm out. If they start moving the cupboard, she will inject me. The family surrounded us, everybody standing around waiting. We are listening. We can hear them talking. One of them goes and stands right next to our cupboard talking, and the other one goes and opens the door opposite where we stuck the furniture. And he comes back and he tells the first guy, let's go. There are no Jews here, just furniture. So they walked out. So my mother put away the syringe. We are sitting again, listening. 2 days, 3 days, I can't remember. Suddenly, one of my uncles speaks up. He says, "It's already a week. The Russian army was outside our city. How long can it take them to drive out the Germans? I think we are free already. The Russian army must be here. Let's get out. Nobody will come and tell us to come out. Nobody knows we are here." So we crawled through the cupboard and we went outside. And we see the German guards are still there. And our people are marching to a train. A train? They don't need a train to take us up the hill to kill us. We can walk there. Perhaps they are taking us to work, like they said. We went to the train. What happened in those 3 years to make a woman like my mother, a nurse, a medical person, willing to kill her family and herself? And that is the story of Ghetto Kaunas. Here is a map of the Europe after the Germans. The war started in 1939 when England declared war on Germany because they attacked Poland. Germany, here's Germany, they took half of Poland. The other half the Russians took. And here was the border. And in 1941, they had already occupied the whole of Europe. France fell, Belgium, Holland, Italy was a partner, and in the south, Hungary and Romania and Greece, all taken by the German army. Germany ruled Europe. And now, in 1941, in June, they attacked across the border in Poland, the Russian side. Immediately, they occupied Lithuania. Here's Lithuania circled. And then they attacked Ukraine. The whole of Ukraine was occupied by Germany. Moscow very nearly fell to the German army. And immediately there was an attack on the Jews. Before the war, I lived a normal life. Here I am with my family, my 2 grandmothers, my grandfather, my mother, my father, my uncle, and me. I'm in the middle. A young kid. I was the only kid in the family, so I was indulged. I wasn't spoiled, but I was indulged. I used to get nice presents for my birthday. I owned a bicycle. We were not wealthy people, but we were lived comfortably. We were kind of lower middle class, I would say. And life was good until the war started. Here I am with my mother when I was 9 years old. She worked in a hospital, assisting in operations, a nurse, and my father worked in a bank as a bookkeeper. He wanted to be an engineer, but the First World War stopped him. He came back to Lithuania from Russia, where he was studying, and he had to be a bookkeeper in a bank. And I went to school. I loved mathematics. I liked history. I liked to read a lot. I was a big reader. Once I learned to read, the world was my oyster. I could read anything. And here I am at the age of 13. I just graduated from grade 6, and I was ready to go to high school, 7 to 12. Now, if I was 13 in 1941, how old am I now? For those of you who are mathematically problematic, I am now 98. 98-year-old. I'm an old man. And here at 13, I got a uniform for the first time. I was so proud of the uniform. I'm going to high school. I never got to use the uniform because the war started in 1941. I never went to high school. So the war started, and immediately there was an attack on the Jews. They put us in a ghetto. Here is a ghetto gate. People had to go to work, slave labor. You are not getting paid for your work. You are lucky we are feeding you, they said. And we had to gather up here, and they said, we need 25 people to dig roads. 25 people walked out. Soldiers surrounded them. We all had to wear the yellow Star of David on the chest and on the back. We need 3,000 people to build an airport. 3,000 people went out, and so on. I didn't have to go. It was from the age of 15 to the age of 65. I stayed home. And all kinds of laws started. They screamed, "We are coming door to door. You must give up all your valuables, money, gold, silver. Don't hide it. If we find something you have hidden, we will kill you on the spot." Two soldiers came into our little room. They filled the room. "Put on the table your money, your gold." My father, with shaking hands, took the money out of his pocket and put it on the table. My mother brought her jewelry. She didn't have much. She brought a pair of silver candlesticks. Jews pray every Friday night to welcome the Sabbath on 2 candles. So they got these silver candlesticks as a wedding present. They looked around. They said, "Have you got cameras?" "Yes, my father had a camera." "Bring it here." "What about furs? Do you have furs?" My mother brought her fur. They took it all away and packed it, wrapped it up, and one guy was standing writing down everything we were giving up. And he said, "What is your last name?" He wrote it on top and he gave us a copy. They robbed us and they gave us a receipt, you understand? The Germans were very orderly. Everything was written down. Every murder, every killing, every robbery, documents. And now we have all the documents. Historians are digging through piles of documents, miles of files of documents. So that was that. Other things happened. We had to give up all our books. My father was very upset. He brought his whole library. He loved books. Every Friday he used to buy a new book. He brought the whole library to the ghetto, packed in cartons. We couldn't unpack them. They were lying by the side of the wall in the bedroom, the one little room that we had. Now he has to give up his books. So my dad was very upset. He went into his books. He pulled out a couple of less valuable books, put them in a wheelbarrow, and I and he went with a wheelbarrow to deliver these books to a collection center. Turned out it was a little synagogue. They ripped out all the benches and told us, "Throw the books on the floor." When we arrived at noontime, an amazing sight greeted us. There were books from the floor to halfway up the wall, a mountain of books. My father looks around and he says to me, "You notice? With the books, they trust us. There are no Germans here, no guards." So he can have a look. He bends down, he picks up a book, he loves books. Takes one, another one, puts it back. Then he picks up a pair of 2 books. Oh, he says, "Gretz Geschichte der Juden." That's in German, Gretz, History of the Jews. He says, "That's a very good one. Take out our books from the wheelbarrow and leave them here. They are not worth much. Take the 2 books and put them in. We are taking them home." Then he bends down and he picks up a beautiful red volume. And there were 6 more lying on the floor. He says, "Oh, Pushkin, the gold edition." Pushkin is the greatest Russian poet, like Shakespeare in English. And he died in 1839. So in 1939, they published all his volumes, 6, I think, so 6 volumes. My father says, "The gold edition. I always wanted to buy it. I couldn't afford it. It's very expensive. Now it's on the floor." You know what, Elly? Put it in. And he puts it in the wheelbarrow. And then he puts other books. He picks the best books he can find. After a while, I'm shouting, "Dad, stop. I can't take any more. It's full." "Okay, cover it with a newspaper. We are going home." And we went home with a heavy wheelbarrow full of books. And we went back 7 times. We went back empty and we came back full. Our books we didn't touch. Now there were books on the floor, on the bed, on the table. And my mother is shouting, "Julius, what are you doing? You are stealing books. They are going to kill us." "Don't worry," said my father. "We are not keeping them here, Sonia. We are going to hide them." Elly, in the shed outside, there was a big garden shed outside the house. He said, take them over there on the ladder and put them on top of the ceiling in the shed. So I brought all the books over in the shed and I put them on top of the ceiling. If anybody finds them, it's not ours, we don't know who put them there. And there I had the Library of Europe in front of me. But it was a pile of books on the floor. I need bookshelves. How do you make bookshelves? You take bricks and boards, and you line them up and you put the books. I had 2 huge shelves packed with the best books I could find in 4 languages. I spoke 4 languages. At home, I spoke with my parents Yiddish, the language of the Jews of Eastern Europe, Russia, Poland, Lithuania. Yiddish is written with Hebrew letters from right to left. When my parents wanted to talk to each other, they spoke Russian, though I shouldn't understand, because they were educated in Russian. Russia occupied Lithuania for 150 years before the First World War. We were part of the Tsarist Russia. So they only taught Russian. My parents went high school in Russian. My father studied engineering in St. Petersburg. They spoke Russian. How long do you think it took me to learn Russian? No time at all. But I kept quiet. I wanted to know what they are saying. When I was 10 years old, my parents discovered, to their total surprise, the kid speaks Russian. What a miracle. When I went downstairs to play with the kids in the street, I spoke Lithuanian, the natural country of the country, the language of the country. A very old language, older than Latin, comes from the Himalayas, from Sanskrit. I spoke Lithuanian perfectly. I also spoke German because I heard a lot of German spoken from Jews who ran away from Hitler. They came to Lithuania. Some of them went to America, went to England, wherever they could go. We got a share of them too. All had to run out of Germany. They spoke German. I learned German. But I didn't know the literature of Russia or Germany. I knew the literature of Yiddish very well already at 13, and I knew the Lithuanian literature. I learned Russian alphabet, and I started to read Russian. I read Tolstoy, Anna Karenina, War and Peace, the famous books. I read Dostoevsky, not suitable for a 13-year-old, but I read it. I read Pushkin, the beautiful poetry. I still remember now. I read the German literature, Goethe, Schiller, Heine, the classics. I read Thomas Mann. I read the poets. That was my education. I never went to school. I never had high school. So we were in the ghetto, and one day they announced nobody goes to work. Tomorrow, everybody has to come out in a big open field in the ghetto. Don't stay home. Leave the doors open. If we come and we find you, you will be killed on the spot. 30,000 Jews came out in the ghetto, in the big field. And out comes a guy in a uniform of the SS, Schutzstaffeln, Hitler's own volunteer army. He comes out and he climbs on a box and he says, everybody walk past me. Left, right. This family, go to the right, back to the ghetto. This family, go to the left, stand by the fence. Left, right, the whole day till 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock it was finished. My family happened to go to the right, to the ghetto. There was no reason that we could see why he chose some left and some right. He just needed numbers. 10,000 people were standing outside by the fence, surrounded with soldiers. Next morning, we found out what's happening. Those 10,000 were marched away up the hill toward the 9th Fort, the big military compound. And there, on the 9th Fort, On the 29th of October 1941, 10,000 men, women, and children and old people were shot in one day. They were shot with machine guns, and their bodies were thrown in long trenches that were dug before. A couple of them were wounded but not killed. They climbed out at night when the soldiers were gone. They came back to the ghetto and they told us, everybody there is dead. So we knew that would be our fate too. Who was the man who was in charge of this whole operation? His name is well known to Canadians because he lived here in Canada, Helmut Raucher, from 1950 to 1982. 32 years. This war criminal. A war criminal is a man who killed civilians. He lived here in peace. He had a motel in Huntsville. Later he finished it. He was retired. He came to Toronto. He bought a house. He was almost my neighbor. I had no idea he was here. Nobody knew. If I knew he was here, I could have found him in 5 minutes because he was in the phone book in Toronto. We don't have phone books anymore, but he was there in his own name. The RCMP found him. Canada took in over 1,000 war criminals with blood on their hands, and we never did anything about it. It's a shame on Canada. Other countries, when they found out, they sent them back to the country of origin, where they were tried and very often condemned to death. Canada did nothing of the kind. But this guy, the RCMP found him after 32 years. They put him in jail. They put him in front of a judge. And the judge said, this guy, he's charged with 11,500 murders by Germany. We know nothing about him. He should be tried here as a Canadian citizen. Send him to Germany. Let them try him. They know what he did. He was sent away to Germany, the only war criminal that we sent out of the country. We sent him to Germany, and they put him in jail, and 6 months later he died in jail hospital of cancer. Never came to a trial. And how do we know that 10,000 people were killed on the 28th of October? Here is a document, multi-page document, the Jaeger report it's called, Karl Jaeger. Each line in this document describes the killing of the Jews of Lithuania, a date, a town, and how many Jewish men, women, and children were killed in that town. And altogether there are 92 executions in 92 towns and small villages even, of Jews. Altogether, 92 executions between July and December 1941. In the first 5 months of our war, they killed 137,000 Jews. There were 200,000 Jews in Lithuania. They killed most of them, 2/3 of them. And here's an excerpt at the bottom. 29th October 1941, in Kaunas, my city, the capital of Lithuania at the time, 9th Fort, 2,007 Jewish men, 2,900 women, and 4,000 children. Total, 9,200. Why did they kill them? Removal from the ghetto of surplus Jews. They had too many of us, so they had to kill us, my friends. That's the story. They formed in the ghetto a school with permission from the Germans, a trade school, not a regular school, no schools for Jews, but a trade school. Okay, let them learn a trade. And that school, here's a picture. And that picture is of me teaching the children. What happened? At 13, I joined the metalwork school, and I learned all the trades in metal. I learned tool making, I learned repairing locks and keys, a locksmith. I learned how to heat up in iron in the fire and bend it. I learned all the trades. 2 years I went to school. When I was 15, I graduated. and they offered me a job. You want to teach? I said, yes, I want to teach. I don't want to work for the Germans. So they put me in and made me a teacher. And here I am, that guy in the middle with the black hair. Please make no mistake. That's me at 15, teaching the younger boys of 12, 13-year-olds metalwork. I found it in the Holocaust Museum in Washington. I was so surprised. I brought it back to Toronto. They published it in a newspaper in Toronto. And my whole story and this picture. Anyway, remember, after we came out from the basement after 3 years in the ghetto, and we went to the train. We saw a train. They don't need a train to take us up the hill to kill us in the Ninth Fort. We can walk there. Why do they need a train? Perhaps they are taking us to work somewhere. We went to the train. The train journey was terrible. We traveled overnight, crowded conditions in a wagon, a freight wagon, 200 people jammed in. We were lying on top of each other. No water, no food, nothing. No facilities. In the morning, we arrived at Stutthof, concentration camp Stutthof here. And everybody out of the train, women to the right, men to the left. I lost my mother. She jumped out of the train and she was gone. Never said goodbye to her. And I went with my uncles and my father to the left. After half an hour, all the men back up on the train. The women remained there. My aunt remained standing there, and my mother. And we traveled another day and a night, and we arrived at night to Dachau, camp number 1. We saw a sign, concentration camp Dachau, camp number 1. Dachau. Dachau was the worst name. Everybody in Europe knew Dachau. It was the first concentration camp made by Hitler to lock up all his enemies, political. And a concentration camp is a jail for people who have done nothing wrong, but the government doesn't like them. They locked us up, but this is not the main camp of Dachau. The main camp of Dachau came later. This is a sub-camp, 50 kilometers away from Dachau. Dachau was a place of torture, of shootings, of killings, of murder, of medical experiments. They locked up communists and socialists and labor leaders. They locked up politicians. They locked up people who published newspapers. They were killing people. And hunger, starvation. This is a camp we arrived at. 2 rows of barbed wire, machine gun posts in the corner. If you come near the fence, they start shooting. And these huts. Here's the inside of a hut. I spent 10 months of my life, from the age of 16 to the age of 17, in that hut. Total hunger, no washing facilities. After a few months, we were crawling full of lice in our body. Our clothes were full of those little 6-legged bugs, lice. They were drinking our blood and bringing us disease. And we got nothing to eat. We were so hungry. We used to come back from work, 12-hour shifts, construction work. When we came back home, we got home. This is a home. We got a bowl of soup and 1 slice of bread. And the soup, no meat, no fat. It was just vegetable soup. If a piece of potato floated in your soup, that was a good day to remember, because mostly it was just liquid. Parsnip soup, nothing. We were hungry. We were totally hungry. Hunger took hold of us. Hunger is a terrible pain. You don't think of anything else except something to eat. I walk to work and I see a core of an apple on the ground. So I run out of my line of walk and I try to grab the core of an apple. And the soldier behind hits me with the butt of his rifle into my back. Get back in line. He nearly broke my back. I was in pain for months. Nothing to eat, nothing to eat, total hunger. Older people, people with diabetes, people with bad hearts, they died in the first 2 weeks. They couldn't do it. But after 3 months, young people started to die. One day I'm sleeping next to my friend, a young boy like me, and I said goodnight to him. And in the morning I'm shaking him, get up, get up. He doesn't move. He died in the night. I have to carry him outside. The death wagon. You see here's a death wagon. Every morning used to come round the death wagon to pick up the dead bodies. I've never carried a dead body. I've never touched the dead body. I take him by the legs. Another guy takes him by the arms, and we carry him out, and the guy throws him on the wagon, roughly. I wanted to put him down gently. He's my friend. His head bounced 3 times on the wagon. It was so terrible. I got used to it. I carried more dead bodies than I could count. Every day we had dead people. Why did they bring us to Germany? They needed workers. Germany was being attacked by bombers, American in the morning and British bombers at night. Every morning we saw the Americans flying there, and we heard the bombs falling on Munich, which was nearby. They destroyed Germany. 1-ton bombs. One bomb is enough to destroy a whole building, a whole number of buildings, factories, railways. And at night came the Lancasters from England, bombing. The Germans were fighting them. They were shooting at them, and they had fighter planes. But then the Germans invented a new kind of aeroplane, a jet. The jet aeroplane. This is a Messerschmitt 262, the famous aeroplane, the first jet, no propellers. It could fly 700 kilometers an hour, and the bombers were flying at 350. He could fly up and shoot them down in no time. Very dangerous aeroplane for the Americans and for the British. But they couldn't build them. The factories were being jammed, destroyed one after the other. So they decided to build a factory so strong that no bomb could go through. And here's the idea. They piled up sand, 400 meters long, half a kilometer almost. And they covered it with concrete and steel, 5 meters thick. A normal room is 2.5 meters. This is double. Then they dug out the sand inside, removed it, put in 3 floors of machine tools. You have never seen a building that size. The idea was mass production of an aeroplane. We were brought to build this building. From all over Europe, they brought people. There were 11 camps, like our little camp for 3,000 men from Lithuania. They were another 10 camps with numbers 1 to 11. All of them working here. Here's a construction site. You have never seen a building that size. Giant. Here's a soldier. Here's a prisoner standing. And here's where they dug out the sand. Here's another picture. Here's 5 meters of metal was put up by our prisoners, and then it was filled with concrete. Filled with concrete. Our people are standing on these boards here, and a pipe was hanging from a crane, and they were moving it around to spread the concrete. But the wind blew the pipe sideways. The prisoner slipped off the slippery board. In winter it was ice, and fell into the liquid concrete and drowned in the concrete. Next morning the concrete hardened, locked up his body for eternity. I lost my friend there. One day I came home. I said, "Where's Haskell?" They said, "He fell in the concrete." 12 people drowned in the concrete, we know now from the diary of the engineer. We died. We died. Every day we were dying from hunger, from exhaustion. We never finished to build this place. The American army came before we were finished. I did not contribute to the German war effort. This is what I looked like, a young boy. He's got a wound on his face that doesn't heal. I had one on my leg, doesn't heal. It was bad, it was bad. The American army started to surround our building site. They were coming close, we could hear shooting. So they grabbed us and they put us on a train and they brought us to Central Camp Dachau. This is a granddaddy of all concentration camps. 32 barracks, packed with people, 2 rows of barbed wire, charged with 3,000 volts electricity. You touch the fence, you die. Nobody escaped from Dachau. We arrived, my father, I weighed 70 pounds. My father weighed 65 pounds. We were both very close to death, but my father decided that he wants to die. I could see it in his face, I could see it in his eyes, and I begged my father not to die. I said, please, you don't know what's happening. I don't know where my mother is, and now you are dying. And my father said to me, I don't know how much longer I will be with you, my friend. My son, he said. He was ready to die. We went into barrack number 2, crowded with people. Sorry, this is what it looked like. Crowded with people. 3 bunks, full, shoulder to shoulder, they were lying there. This picture is not from Dachau, it's from Auschwitz, but it's the same thing. We had 3 shelves. No place to lie down. My father is trying to find a place. He found, because they pulled out a dead body from the bottom bunk, so he grabbed the spot. I didn't have a place, so I fell on the floor and I slept next to him. In the morning, I expected to find him dead, but my father is still alive, talking to me softly. Noontime, they bring the soup. You have to stand in line. He can't get up. He gives me his dish. All we had was an aluminum dish and a spoon hanging from our jacket. He gives me his dish. You get it for me. So I go in line. Please give me one for my father. They gave me 2 soup and they gave me 2 slices of bread. I come to my father. He grabs the soup and people are shouting, the Americans are here. We are free. I look up. I look out the fence. I look up and I see an American soldier in a jeep. I said, Father, we made it. We survived. The war is over. And my father, he says, oh, that's good. Have you got a bread? I was still holding his bread. People came out to greet the Americans. People came out to greet the Americans. Those who could stand on their feet. They kissed them, they loved them. Oh, it was such a scene. And the Americans had tears in their eyes when they saw us, what we looked like. It was a sad sight, a sad sight. But we survived. My father survived. We managed to get into a hospital outside. Well, 6 months I stayed in hospital, 6 months. From 70 pounds, I went to 120 pounds. And now I was out 3 months after liberation. We found out my mother and my aunt survived the war. And we found them in a hospital. I had my mother. I was so happy to see my mother, and she looked so terrible. I have some pictures, but I can't show them here today. I cried. I had my mother. I hardly recognized her, but she was okay. And my aunt got better, and she went back to Lithuania and she got back her child. It's a long story. Anyway, after 6 months, I was out of hospital and I had a problem. I hated Germans. I wanted to kill Germans. I wanted revenge. Nothing else was in my head but revenge. I can't do it with a knife. I can't stand blood. I want a revolver. I want a gun. I went looking for a gun, to buy a gun, to kill Germans. And I couldn't find a gun. I couldn't get. And one day I said to myself, I went around quite a while with hate. One day I said to myself, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? You can't hate 60 million people. They are not all murderers, only some of them. Give it up. I used to turn my head sideways. Give it up. Whom do you want to kill? You want to kill that woman? I look at the woman, I say to myself, I don't want to kill her. I've got nothing. She's done nothing to me. So whom do you want to kill? I want to kill that guy. He looks like he could have been a guard in Dachau. How do you know? Perhaps he was a professor of history who hated Hitler. Stop hating. I stopped hating. I started living for the first time. And I remembered I want to be an engineer. And I haven't got high school. So I started to study mathematics, physics, science. I took a course in electronics. I learned how to repair radios. Oh, that was so interesting. Now I want to be an electronic engineer, not an airplane engineer. I applied to the German university. 5 professors examined me for an hour and a half. They accepted me at university. I came home. Mother, I'm going to be an engineer. Not in Germany, said my mother. Why not? We want to get out of here. We don't like to be here. I know, I said, but no country wants us. Canada said, for Jews, none is too many. There's a book by that name. Look it up. America, they didn't want to take Jews, only if you had a cousin or something. South Africa, we had relatives. No Jews wanted and no Catholics, they said. So we couldn't go anywhere until Israel was established in 1948. 150,000 Jews left for Israel. That is why we love Israel. One of the reasons. We stayed in Germany. But my mother said, we are going to Norway. The only country that offered to take 500 Jews was Norway. So we went to Norway. The Norwegians were wonderful to us. They gave us housing, they gave us toothbrushes, they gave us bed sheets, everything. And they taught us Norwegian. I learned Norwegian in 3 months. I was in a big hurry. I want to get a job and I want to learn. I got a job in Oslo. I was the first one to get a job because I could speak Norwegian. And at night, I went to night school. I have to get matric now to get to university in Norway. My father writes to his uncle in Johannesburg, South Africa. Uncle, send some money. My son wants to be an engineer and he shouldn't have to work. And the uncle writes, I can't send out money. Come to Africa. I'll make sure your son can go to university. So we went to Africa. My parents and I, we left the family in Norway and we went to Africa. Not South Africa. We couldn't get in. They put us in Zimbabwe. It was at the time called Rhodesia, a British colony. Now it is independent, Zimbabwe. We arrived in Rhodesia. Now I have to learn English. I learned English, my 6th language, the 6th one. I learned English and I went to university and I became an engineer. I was so happy. University in Johannesburg, South Africa. We didn't have engineering. We didn't have any university in Rhodesia. I was so happy. I came back to Rhodesia when I finished 4 years and I expected to get a good job. No jobs for engineers. What can I do? I have to do something. So I rented a little shop. I had no money and I started radio repairs. I fixed radios. They gave me money. I made more money. I opened a big store selling radios and bicycles. I put my parents in to sell. I don't like retail. Too boring to sit and wait for somebody to come and do you a favor to buy something. So I gave it up. I left it to my parents to sell, and I started a sound recording studio. I was recording voice and singing and concerts and symphonies. And I started to make records, vinyl records. And then I started an advertising agency. And then I needed films for the advertising agency. So I started a film company. I became a film director. I did everything. And I was so excited because I had a wonderful, amazing country there. I started to fish on the Zambezi River. I caught this big tiger fish with a piece of chunk of meat from a crocodile. Where do you get crocodile meat? You hunt a crocodile. I became a crocodile hunter. We shot a lot of crocodiles and we sold the skin, very valuable, for hand leather, for handbags, for shoes. And I learned how to ride horses. I loved horses. I learned how to jump horses. I was teaching kids horse riding. I was climbing mountains. One day, I got older. I said to myself, I have to find a woman I could love all my life. So I went looking. I had a lot of friends, but I need somebody special. I found her. I had a good time looking, but I found her. Yeah, my Esme. We have now been married for 68 years. 68 years. And we are still in love. We had 3 children. We lived in South Africa at that time. We had a factory, electronic welding of plastics, my specialty. Very successful after a number of years. Everything was good. We were making money. I lived in a big house with an acre of ground. Everything was good, except I couldn't live in South Africa. I couldn't stand the regime after Dachau to watch them, how they treated the black people. I didn't like it. I persuaded Esme's family and my family, 13 people. We came out of Africa and we went looking for a country. We applied to America and to Canada. Canadian papers came first. We went to Canada. In Toronto, we established a factory, welder plastics, electronic welding of plastics. After 7 years, I had money, successful. So I bought an airplane and I fulfilled my dream to be a pilot. I loved it. I flew the family to Florida and to Nova Scotia. I got an instrument rating. I could fly at night. I could fly through dark clouds. Later, I learned how to fly gliders. I loved it. Poetry of flight. Now, in 2017 was Canada's 150th birthday. So everybody said, the CBC, our broadcaster said, what are you Canadians doing to remember the great day? I said, I wrote to them a letter. I said, I'm 89-year-old. I'm going to jump from an airplane. Can we come to film you? Yes, come and film me. They filmed me and I jumped.
How was it?
That was fantastic. I'll tell you, jumping out from the airplane the first time, that's a strange, a scary moment. For 1 second, that is really, and the air is cold and it hits you. Yeah, I jumped from a plane. Oh, that was a big scandal. That was a big scandal. Everybody called me, everybody spoke to me. I didn't know I had so many friends. Now we are old people. 60th wedding anniversary, 90th birthday. We danced. I love ballroom dancing with my Esme. Wonderful life, wonderful life. So why do I come to talk to you? I want you to understand the problem of hate. The problem of hate. Hate of other people. Hate of somebody who hurt us. Personal hate. And I advise people, don't carry feelings of hate and revenge. It's not good for you. It damages the brain. But there is another hate. There is a hate of people that you don't even know because they are different to us. Different color of skin, different language, different country of origin, different clothes. We are not comfortable with people who are different. We are so brilliant. Human beings have invented the telephone, one of the smartest things you could imagine. But we are stupid when it comes to hate. Hatred of others damages the brain, it locks it up. There is now a professor of psychology at Yale University. Just last month, he made an experiment. He took a number of students and he told them a story about a man that they hated him, a terrible story. And then he x-rayed their brains with x-rays, with HM, whatever they call it. And he found that their brains were lit up with hatred, lit up the same way as if a man is full of drugs. When a man is lying on the street, out, full of drugs, that's what the brain looks like when we are full of hate. There is no place for logic. There is no place for changing anything. You can't negotiate or argue with a person who is full of hate. His brain is blocked with hatred. We must avoid it. That is why I talk to schools. Thousands of students I talk to. Don't hate. Don't allow your brain to be blocked with dopamine, filled up the brain. No place for any new ideas. Don't hate. Don't hate. And I like to finish my story with this image of a First Nations person who is talking to his grandson. And he tells him, each one of us has in his chest two wolves, the wolf of love and friendship and the wolf of hatred and bitterness. And the two wolves are fighting with each other all the time. So the grandson says, which wolf will win? The one we feed, he said, the one we feed. So I say to you, my friends, don't feed the bad wolf of anti-Semitism. Now in Canada, we have a whole new hatred of the Jews. 2,000 years in Europe, we have suffered hatred. Hatred because we didn't accept Christianity. Hatred because we were a minority. And now we are in North America and they hate us again. What is it in Canada with the Jews? One has to understand the Jews have given the world the basis, the Western world, the basis for education, the basis for government. 2,500 years ago, the Jews began to write the Bible, the Old Testament, 10 Commandments, don't kill, don't be a murderer. And another thing, they created the Talmud, 37 tractates that teach everything, how to behave, how to live, how to run a business, how to run a family, how to be a citizen, how to run a country. 37 tractates written 2,500 years ago. And one of the tractates says, no slavery allowed. That was a time when everybody had slaves. But the Jews said, no slaves allowed. How long did it take the world to accept that? England, 1863, 2000 years later. America, 1867, and they had a war about it. Slavery. Slavery. The English law and the Western law is and structure of government in the 18th century in England. It was formed based on Jewish law. In the 17th century, a British writer of law, I believe his name was Sykes, he said, I'm learning Hebrew. I want to read the Talmud in the original because Jewish law is the most human law there is. So English law is based on Canadian law, on Jewish law, and Canadian law is based on English law. America was founded on the principles of Jewish law. And now there is a hatred in Canada, which I haven't seen for the last 50 years. I'm very upset about it. My friends, don't feed the bad wolf. Thank you very much. And now we have any questions?
Wow. Elly, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I think that anybody who's listened, like I have, has listened with immense interest. I'm amazed. I'm amazed that after all of these years, that you're just so comfortable to recount all of these horrible things that happened to you. And one of the things that struck me is the irony of the fact that your story, as horrific as it is, the things that you went through, as bad as they were, you were one of the fortunate ones. You were among a group of people who survived and was able to get past your hatred and have an amazing, beautiful, productive, incredible life. And I guess if I mean, I don't think I have any questions. You've laid out so clearly how important it is for us to appreciate all that has been given to us, but also to feed, love and friendship in our lives, and not to feed hatred. And I think that lesson is going to shine through this presentation to anybody who listens to it. But I want to ask you. You mentioned you referenced the fact that what's happening today is so very upsetting to you. Maybe share just with people listening how important it is for us to have a voice against the hatred that we're seeing in our world today. Because we have many Jewish friends now from Toronto and from the Barrie area where I am, and really around the world. But we want them all to know that we stand with them. That I'm a Christian, you're a Jewish person. I stand with you. We support you as a Jewish people, and we want the world to know that it's important for us to take this stand. So maybe just share just quickly how important it is for you to hear this from other people, and how that can combat everything else that we're seeing in the media and in the world today.
Yeah, we have problem in the media, especially the TikTok and all those social programs on the computer, which spew hate. There are many places there which spew hate.
It's terrible.
And that hate does so much damage to the brain of the person who is hating, that it's not only because of us, but because of you, because of the people who shouldn't, especially young people, get poisoned by hate, and their brain is blocked and you can't talk to them and you can't teach them anything. And I see it everywhere. If anybody understands, we have to make sure that we speak up, because if we don't say anything when we hear, and as Canadians, we are somewhat reticent to argue with a stranger, but we have to speak up. I understand we are reticent to argue with a stranger, but when we hear it, we must object. Everybody must object to that hatred that we are hearing. Not only
Yeah.
of the Jews, of everybody. It's not only some people hate the Muslims and some people hate the black people and some people hate somebody else. Hatred damages a person and it damages a society. So we have to avoid it, and to avoid it, we must talk. We must talk up. We must speak up when we see hatred. It's very important for society to survive, to speak up as an honest person, not to allow to accept the hate when you hear it.
Hmm. Here, here. And I just want to say thank you for sharing the gift of your story today. And, perhaps many others have heard it before somehow. I don't know if I've been under a rock or what, but I mean, I've heard many Holocaust survivor stories, but I've never heard yours. And just what an incredible experience to be able to listen to you share about your life and about all that happened to you. And I want to finish with this because I think it's important. You mentioned miracles and all of the things, the whatever the reasons were for you and your family to be able to survive. When you got to the part about the fact that you and your father were able to find your mother, I just about I don't know. I just about fell off my chair because I had no real hope as you were sharing that she would ever still be alive.
You know, that
I
was
think.
something that caused me some problem, because I was too shy to tell people that I have both my parents, because everybody was an orphan who survived, and young
Hmm.
people only survived. So I didn't tell anybody unless they asked me, because I considered it a sheer accident of fate or a sign of God. I don't know what it is, but it was an accident that we survived as a family. It was an
Yeah.
absolute miracle.
Well, something, I'm familiar with that sort of survivor guilt, they call that.
Yeah.
But I'm a person of deep faith, and I have no doubt in my mind that God, who I believe is real, um, had these plans for your life and for your family. And look at the impact that you've made. Look at the way that you have impacted the world and are continuing to teach and educate young minds about this terrible story, but also about rejecting hatred. And I just want to say again, thank you for sharing with us today, and
Thank you
and
very
may
much.
God continue to bless you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell the story. Thank you.
It was our pleasure, and I do hope that we get to meet in person one day. This was
Yes,
an incredible experience. Thank you.
I would be delighted. All the best.